All right, in expectation of this weekend's release, we are reviewing Goes Into Effect Until. This is a Goes fermented with sweet cherry, tangerine, and pineapple and aged on Madagascar Vanilla Beans. First thing you're probably asking is, how did we come up with this name? So during the early part of COVID, when we were shut down and peddling beer off the side of the building, every time Governor DeWine spoke and came out with a press conference, we download the list of rules and the new rules and what we can't do, or maybe what we could do now. Back then it wasn't any of what we could do, this is what we can't do. And we'd read them to try to understand what we're up against this next week. And pretty much, you'd say yada yada yada, 6-foot rule goes into effect until, yada yada yada, you can't be open past this time, goes in effect until, and it just continued. Good half a dozen to a dozen of those in 2 pages. So, Goes Into Effect became the perfect COVID release name because it pretty much was the main phrase in Governor DeWine's memos. So right as COVID was getting going and everything was getting shut down and all these mandates were being handed down by the governor and health departments, one of our brewers was talking on the brew floor and I overheard him say yada yada yada, goes into effect until yada yada yada. Again, that's a great beer name. I'm sure somebody's got to have it. So I checked Untapped. Nobody had that beer name. So I registered it and just waited for a beer style to fit that. So we brewed this fruit salad of beers, and that's what this is. It's trying to mimic a fruit salad like Southern Ambrosia, which is, sweet cherry, tangerines, pineapple, and a bunch of marshmallow fluff. It's delicious. You've probably there's a lot of variants to it, but that's the general recipe. We did this in 2019, October 2019, as a milkshake IPA. It did pretty well. I think it scored a 3.98 on Untapped. I wasn't too happy with it. We brewed it again just as a sour. No salt, no goes, just as a sour. In November 2020, it didn't do bad. But like Goses, and one of the reasons why they're so popular is just adding some salt, some solidity to that sour style. Softens it up, it gets those flavors to mesh a lot better. A lot of times it gets the fruit to come out more. So that was the thought process behind getting it into a Gose style. So we did a little test batch in the valley, then we scaled it up for a COVID release. And this is what that is. And this is going to be released this Friday the 8th at 11 a.m. at Canal Place through the weekend until it's gone. Some of it's going out in a distribution. What's the recipe for this? It's a standard Hefeweizen recipe. It's what we use for all our Goses and sours. It's about 50% wheat, 50% pills and malt. Just super light, no malty backbone or anything to get in the way. We use just a little bit of Liberty hops just for some balancing bitterness, but you don't detect it. It's got an IBU of about 11, so really hardly anything at all. And we actually dumped the first batch of this that we made at Canal Place. We've been making sours in the Valley and Canal Place for 2, possibly 3 years, and we use the kettle souring process at Canal Place and the fermenter souring process in the Valley. Never had a batch go bad, but for some reason you got to keep a good carbon dioxide purge over your kettle or in your fermenter to prevent any spoilage, but somehow we must not have had a good enough seal on something or a purge, and we noticed it, mid-fermentation that it just went south, so we dumped it. The second batch came out perfect. Third batch to make up for the first batch came out perfect, so this is what we got. Now let's evaluate it. So notice the COVID cup from our anniversary. Let's pour it nice and clear. See that? It's a great color. So the first thing you smell a little bit of that sourness. You don't get the vanilla yet from the Mad Vanilla Beans. Get a little bit of cherry. Cherry was the predominant fruit component. Then it was tangerine, then pineapple, because pineapple is a pretty strong fruit. You get the salinity first, especially don't forget when you're drinking a sour, lick your lips and you could really, well, when you're drinking a GOSE, lick your lips and you could tell exactly kind of how much salt there is in it, you know, kind of like when you go to the beach and get salt water in your face. That's a pretty good way to evaluate how much salt there is in it, because sometimes just tasting it, you don't pick it up, but you get the salinity, then it mellows out into the Mad Vanilla Beans. Not a lot, just enough to blend everything together. Blend the fruits, blend the sour, soften it up. We find that in a lot of totally different beer styles, pastry styles or this or that, using some Mad Vanilla, Madagascar Vanilla. You don't get it in your nose or your face like, wow, that's a lot of vanilla, but it's just, it adds a smoothing effect to the entire beer without knowing that it's vanilla. So that's what that's kind of doing here. So that's a great, easy drinker. A little bit different spin on a lot of GOSEs out there. I mean, fruit salad, come on. So food pairings. Now GOSEs are perfect to pair with barbecues. You got those sweet sauces, and this brings the tangy, savory component to it. Grilled meats, GOSEs go well with those too. Shrimp and scallop ceviche, that'll kind of pair nicely with the acidity in the ceviche. Cheese pairing, goat cheese, young Asiago cheese, and creamy burrata. I haven't had the latter, but I should go and search for it. So that's it with this review.